having this webinar for Heartfulness Wellness today, and we would like to talk a little bit about creativity. As a life force, what is life force and creativity? How does that connect? And we have some ideas because we are all creative people. Hopefully, at least I can say that you two are, and you are young preceptors also. And you know something about creativity. Both of you are doing some great ventures. You have both businesses that are doing well. And maybe we can give some, what should we say, some motivation input for people who are sitting and are bored maybe, or don't know what to do in the lockdown. I know in Denmark, we don't have this kind of severe lockdown, but many places in the world, it is like that. And I'll start by presenting Emilie Ventujol, and she is founder and creative director of something called Pierrot, Lune, which makes clothes for children. And the purpose of that company is offering a transparent and sustainable supply chain. And Emilie has a solid experience as a designer and has worked for several years with fashion design and production. And she's out of a line of a family that are also designers. So this is very natural for her to go that way. And Thorkild, I don't really have all your credentials here, but I think I can say that you have reinvented an old, I believe it's a Japanese kind of sport game called Kendama. That's the right wording. Mm-hmm. And it's very strange that it's a Dane that is doing that, because it's actually a Japanese thing, but was it more or less forgotten in Japan, I suppose? Or it wasn't a big thing there until...
Yeah, it kind of died out when the video games came along.
Okay. And so how did you find out about it and to reinvent it, you could say?
So I was at a music festival and I was very comfortable in my chair with no plan to get up in any time soon. But then out in the horizon, I saw this guy. He was walking around playing Kendama, and I thought it looked pretty interesting. So I just approached the guy, and he introduced me to the game.
Wow, that's interesting. And we'll get back to what it is. I hope you will make a small demonstration for us.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of things in that Kendama. I also think there's things we can talk about. But let's ask Emilie, what is your, with the creative side? I mean, and if we should put that together with Lifeforce, how would you word that somehow? Do you have any words you can put on that? What is creativity for you? What does it mean for you?
Well, Lifeforce is a sort of, like the human being consists of these two energetic currents, the yin and the yang, we call it. And when these two are intermingling, that's the creation takes place. So that's sort of, when you're saying life force, that's what comes to my mind. So, and for me, being a creative is very much I strive to be somehow balanced between these two currents that everything consists of in life. And I feel the more that I can balance this, and that means also whenever I've been outgoing, I need to take a time to withdraw, to be inside. And so all the time trying to balance these polarities that everything consists of in life. And that I know that when I am most in balance with these two currents inside, when I'm most able to feel in alignment or in balance, that's where I get the best ideas. That's also when I have most alpha waves in the brain. That's when you're in slow thinking, then the ideas can come. So that's what comes to my mind when you say like that.
So the things you get ideas for you is clothes, as we mentioned. I suppose it's what we can see on the racks behind you. There's some of it. And I guess with clothes, there has to be this thing that you have to perpetually almost create new things. You can't just rest on last year's creation. You need to actually all the time you need to find new things. That can be a little bit of a challenge, I imagine.
That's what everybody's asking me. How can you come up with new ideas all the time? But for me, it's not a problem. It hasn't been so far. The problem is to stop myself, actually, because I don't have the cash flow to do all the things that I want to do yet. So for me, it's more like the challenge for me is to pick out the right ideas and to channel the designs and the ideas flow into what can be commercially interesting as well, because all my ideas might not be the ones that would sell the most. So my challenge is mostly that, to make my creative expression commercially attractive as well.
Okay.
But to get ideas is absolutely not a problem for me.
That's great. That's great. Anyway, yeah. So if I can just ask Thorkild, because you're a little bit in the same, you have to, you have just one product, but of course you have to also maybe alter it a little bit from year to year. You have to follow some trends, and of course you have to spread it out because it's a niche. Can you say that?
Definitely.
When we see it later, we will understand it, but now you can maybe talk about it. And I didn't say before that Thorkild is the director and owner of his own company that has grown from a basement when I saw you first time a couple of years ago in a different part of town, and now you are up and have a nice place and getting big, right? Is going worldwide in a way. Yeah.
It is.
So what do you say to what Emilie is talking about with the creation, how to create and Lifeforce? How can we combine those two things, or how can we correlate those two things?
I think everybody's creative, and I think we all are creators, and I think it's a lot about daring to just express yourself and try something out, and just get started. So a lot of grown-ups, they don't want to draw anymore. You stop, playing. And I think when we dare to make a drawing, and most of us admit that it might not look as good as we want to, but just, do it and have fun doing it, then we're starting. And then you're onto something. Then you kind of know where you are, and you can enjoy that process. And I think being creative is it's a process. Like Emilie, she says, once you're in it, it can be difficult to stop. And my experience personally is, the more generous I am sharing my ideas and making manifesting ideas, they just keep coming. But if I hold them tight, and I don't want to share or save it for later, something, this flow can kind of stop. So I think being creative is also working together and supporting each other in whatever you do. And I think when I started the company, I was mainly on the old school definition of being creative, doing product design, designing web pages, doing photography. And at this point, when I'm running the whole company and expanding our business and getting new partners worldwide, I think it's also a very creative process to do this more traditional business stuff, because in business, there's pretty much no rules and you can do whatever you want to and feel to. And I think there's a lot of creative space. And I think it's fun when you can make people around you feel safe and they dare to do something which might not be brilliant, but at least you're doing something. And I think that's being creative. And then, when you're doing something, you get some kind of product. And when you have that product, you can look at it and you can redo it or redesign it or make it better. And I think that's kind of like this endless flow. And I think it's very healthy just getting started.
But this is very interesting, because what you're really saying here is that the creativity is not like confined to a specific thing. Like if you're a musician, you just make music. It's a kind of universal thing, because as you said, I like that you said this, that the business side of it is also a creative thing, which is a different type than maybe making a painting or drawing or design clothes. And I know with you, Emilie, you also have the whole thing with the business thing has also been a big thing for you, right? Because it's not just making the clothes, it's also getting the business to run. So what I would ask here is, for both of you, is that, so what we can say, that creativity, if you look in a broader sense, and we talk Lifeforce also, what is creativity really? Can we get into that? Can we talk about that? Or is it too deep or too philosophical?
No, it's not. It's very, I think it's very interesting what Thorkild started off with, saying that everybody is creative, because basically everything, if you see it from a yogic or spiritual point of view, everything which is not the center where nothing moves, basically. Everything that is starting to create, when the yin and yang or purusha and prakriti starts intermingling, then it moves away from the center, and it's a sort of creation starts taking place. So everything that is a creation is also, it's also a creation that we sit and have this meeting right now, and we have co-created that with divinity for some reason. So what I'm very extremely conscious in my business is like to run my business consciously, actually, as a conscious creator. What is it I want to create? Because it's not about whether I create or not. We create all the time, 24/7. Also when our business goes bankrupt, also when we lose our spouse, or when we get a divorce, or when we get married, whatever, it's our creation. Even the bad things, so to speak, has been created by us. So to become a conscious creator, I think it's very, very interesting in terms of running a business, because there you can actually really measure like your results, where because you need to measure your budgets. If you hit your monthly targets, you need to measure how much did this, in my case, how much did this dress sell, how much did I do as we expected when we did our budgets. So you can really actually measure your creations, and you can sit afterwards and say, why didn't I get to the goal, or why did I get to the goal? And then you can become more and more conscious in your inner life, because all the creations essentially comes from our inner life. All our circumstances, so to speak, all our creations and manifestations are a result of what we vibrate inside. What we are a vibratory match to is what will be created in our outside world, right?
Yeah.
So
that's very interesting, because
yeah,
I think we'll get into this also, what is creation, because I'm thinking about Kamlesh D. Patel's book, Designing Destiny. Of course, we are in this heartfulness milieu, so of course we will hover around these things, and that's also creation, but in a different way. But I think we'll get there in a little while. So, so both of you have this business, and you are, as you say, Emilie, I think it's very nice that you say this thing, that even if you go bankrupt, you have to be creative. There has to be some creativity involved in that too, because you also have to deal with the downsides of things. How to deal with that? You have to be creative there too. So how can you say something about that? Because there often you also have emotions that are not easy to deal with, that you have to deal with, because it's always good when it's going up and money is flowing into the bank. There's a little more happiness, and then it seems easier to be creative. But when you're going down and it's not so good, what do you do then? How do you manage that?
Well, it's again about being very conscious for me, because for me it's been financially quite a journey. The last 6 years hasn't been very easy. In this industry that I have somehow chosen, is not a very easy industry to make it in with high ideals and high values as I have, because of whatever reason. But I have chosen an industry which is quite difficult. So I have been challenged a lot financially. And how do I deal with that? Is like to be very conscious of my own reactions and emotions, as you say. Emotional management has been one of my main topics. I've done a lot of courses and trainings and things like that, and my meditation, obviously, every day. Without that, I wouldn't be able to manage the emotions and the reactions, to not keep co-creating in the wrong way. If you can see something goes in the wrong way, like Einstein was saying, if you keep having the same results, I mean, I don't know how he quoted, I can't quote it directly, but if you keep having the same result, maybe you should do something else. You know, so to be conscious about.
I have yet to learn that, but it's nice to hear from you. You can teach.
So consciousness, being very conscious, I think, is the most important thing in all matters in life. And I think what people often, or we often confuse with creative people, is actually artistic people, because I'm a very artistic person, so are you, you know, and Thorkild is also a very artistic person, but everybody are creative. Yeah,
I agree with you there. We can get into that also. We have a lot of time here. So I just was talking now because what Emilie is saying there, do you experience the same thing with the business? Because I don't know if you had the same struggles you have in the beginning. I remember you had some time where you really had to, you know, tighten the belt and get things. I don't know how it's going now for you, but how do you see this with the hardships also and being creative there? What is your view on that?
I think I definitely had a lot of ups and downs in this business, and now this year it'll be my 10-year anniversary of running the business since we started, and also my 10-year anniversary of commencing Heartfulness meditation. So those have always been, you know, walking hand in hand, and I think the meditation definitely helps taking the right decisions, because at some point, you know, when everything is actually creating, good or bad, you know, you really need to focus and figure out, you know, what to do, because you can do whatever you want.
This is like a commercial. This is like a commercial. Are you saying that the meditation made your company work?
The meditation definitely helped me take the right decisions in many ways, and gave me, in general, just a good feeling and the best possible start to the day. And it's made a huge difference. So, I mean, I didn't try making the experiment not meditating and running the business, but I guess it wouldn't have been very enjoyable. But coming back to the hardships, I think it's difficult to be creative when you can do whatever you want. If I told you, but right now, do something creative, like maybe it would be hard. So I think some kind of frame, like the Danish dogme, for examples, where, you know, the cameraman could only be handheld, and, you know, all these kind of rules. Making some kind of frame to be creative within is a gift, because then you know, okay, this is kind of what I got. This is the box for now.
That's very interesting.
And I think having a hardship in your business is a very good frame to be creative within, because if you struggle financially, for example, myself a few years ago, all of my cash was in old product, and product that other people would rather buy the new one. I had all the old ones, and that's where I had all my cash. So, you know, since I'm responsible for making new product, you know, I'd rather make new product, but we couldn't get any more financing. All right, so let's sell the old product. And I was used to just always, you know, making something new and fresh, and that would be an easy sell. But how do you get rid of these old ones? People don't want to buy them. Then you can make some new promo material for these. You can give them on consignment to new distributors. You can use them to start up a new market, and it's kind of like, it's a whole new way of thinking, because you're only allowed to think about how can we get rid of this old product. I'm forced into this box. How can I get rid of these old products? And it makes me do and think and act completely new, because I also don't just want to dump the price too much. You know, it's a fine balance. And I think that's definitely learned me a lot. And first of all, keeping track of your inventory and the forecast and sell-through data in the market. But then secondly, it's a fun exercise when it works, and you kind of just gotta sell the apples you have.
Okay, that's interesting. So so you have actually quite similar in many ways. So I don't know if you also had these kind of hardships, and Emilie was also telling it's difficult to start up a business. That's always so maybe you should get a little more into what meditation does, what the difference, what do you think it does? As you said, Thorkild, you haven't tried it without it. And neither have you, Emilie, I don't think. Is that right?
Oh yes, I mean, in a way I have, because I'm someone who, I'm brought up with this meditation system, and I've always had it, and I've never been very good in being regular with my practice. So I've definitely tried to have periods where I don't practice at all.
Excuse me, if I can, is that because you were brought up in it, you think?
No, because I think it's something, it's just always been there. And in my opinion, it's like, I've seen other people when they come and they find it and they become like, it's like such a mega massive change in their life, this thing. And then they just meditate very regularly. Maybe not all of them, it's my own little theory, you know, but I think I have been a little bit spoiled with this kind of spiritual approach to life. It's always been there. So it's not necessarily meditation for me to meditate. For me, I work and operate more with having a meditative condition and right through my day and life and everything I do. But I can see that the periods where I somehow often become too stressed because of money very often, then it becomes difficult to meditate. I start sleeping bad at night. My meditations are not working, so I get up after 5 minutes because I get annoyed or I get stressed because of I want to start the day to fix things. And I can very much measure and see that things are not going well when I don't practice my meditation. And
so
then when
you have a kind of proof, your own proof of that, simply.
I definitely have my own proofs, and I can see that's the tricky thing of the mind, is that when I start thinking that I can change things in the outside world, that's back to the creativity. When I start thinking that I can actually do anything in the outside world, like you can't. I mean, I can't change anything in the outside world. So my meditation always brings me back into this deep acknowledgement or knowledge, wisdom from within, that everything has to start from within.
That's great. Yeah.
So if I want a balance, if I want balance in my financial life, if I want balance in my relationships, in my whatever work life, if I work too much and, if I do the wrong decisions, then it's always back to changing it, becoming more in clarity within, and then it always starts flowing and being more smooth and in alignment outside.
Okay. But how do you manage in a situation, as you say, I've also experienced this with, because I work with the film business, and sometimes it's very hectic. And if you want to meditate, even if you have half an hour, you don't get it because people will show you have to take 5 or 10 minutes. So how do you do it when the stress is so massive, you could say, that even meditating can be difficult? Is there some way that do you just force yourself to do it, or how does it work?
No, I'm very much a person in that sense, an artist, that I don't do anything from being forced if I can avoid it. I don't like it. My meditation is also something that it's like, for me, it's like something I enjoy beyond words. And I want it to be something that I'm looking forward to, like the best time of the day. And it's never, for me, it just doesn't work it doesn't resonate with me that it can be the best time of the day if I force myself, So I would never meditate if I don't feel like it. Actually, I'm quite like that. But I most of the time do feel like it. So that's lucky. Yeah.
Sometimes if I feel too stressed, I would start going for a walk. If I really feel there's a lot of stuff going on in my head, and I know, if I sit down right now, it'll probably be impossible to meditate. I'll just start by going for a good old walk, get some fresh air, calm your mind, and then see how I feel.
But do you think, both of you, is there something in the meditation that, you could say one thing that you sit down and meditate, you put yourself in that mind, but is there something in the, what should we say, in the mechanism or the act of the meditation that draws you to it? What is it that draws you to meditating? Because if it's a thing that you sit down and do every day, there must be something that draws you in. I don't know if that's the right way to put it, but
but for me, it's I was doing another some live cast yesterday where I was talking about this not being, we're not called human doing, we are called human being, and it's for me, it's like I know that when I practice my meditation, I get sort of back into that seed or like inner connection to my core being, where I know that I see everything in clarity. And then again, back to this, I think it's a profound sort of life, a way of seeing life, is that whether things are created from inside and out, or if you can actually have any power on the outside world. It's once you've discovered that from deep within through meditation, I think it becomes a necessity. It's almost like saying, why do we eat? Because we're hungry. So this is our subject in a way, because when we talk about life force, you can't imagine you not having it.
you have to have life force, otherwise we wouldn't be here. So this is really, when we use the word life force, I really think it as, you know, the spirit or our soul or whatever you call it. And I see it, life force, I always like this thing that, you know, you have this piece of grass that comes out through the concrete. It finds a crack through the concrete, right? And you, this is real life force. If a grass straw can do that, we should be able to do it so much more, right? So that's really what we are trying to get into. What is this life force? I mean, without it, we wouldn't exist, right? And creation wouldn't exist without life force. So therefore, life force and creation, it is really the same in a way, isn't it? If we now become a little philosophical about it, I don't know if
no, I think it definitely is, and I think it was resonating very much with me what Thorkild said about being under pressure and then having to sell his stock that he couldn't do and all that story from before. That for me, this Corona days when in Denmark we were under the lockdown where we couldn't go out and all that, I actually totally remodeled my entire business model. I have totally cut down to basic and started all over for whatever reasons. But that was because I was forced, because of starting to lose a lot of money on some markets and some ways of dealing with our things. And then saying, okay, let us start all over and do a different way. And we've actually had the best months ever in our entire history. So which was really coming from, because there's no way out, otherwise we die, you know, and so you just have to, and it's somehow it's extremely enhancing the creative spirit also for me when I'm sort of pressed into the corner.
You're forced into something you want to be forced in.
Yeah. Gladly forced into something.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? You hate being forced, but you know.
Yeah.
You appreciate being forced into.
To do it. Yeah. Anyway, but look, I don't know if you mind that we go a little into that, because I know it's not a business program with that, but what do you think, what is the reason why under a crisis like this, because I also understand from you that your sales is also doing okay, maybe even better during this COVID thing. And
best April we ever had.
Product. I think people will see it when they see what you do. And so I'll get back to you, but could I just ask Emilie again, what is it that does the clothes sell more now?
Well, I think it's two things. It's firstly a lot of mothers who sat at home and maybe they were spending more time on their phones, where we get most of our sales from. I mean, they buy it from their phone when they sit on Instagram, and we're, you know, so a lot of people were maybe a little bit bored, and it gives them a little bit of a kick of adrenaline to buy some clothes, you know.
But it's clothes. It's not the mothers that use it.
No, but it's the mothers. It's the mothers that buy it. Our main segment. I mean, 98% of our customers are mothers. You know. So, but secondly, I think that we have in my company we have an advantage here, because that we are sustainable and we have our full business strategy and model is deeply funded in sustainability and wanting to take place in making the planet suffer less and reduction of CO2 and all that. And I think during these months myself, I have also become much more aware what I consume, because we have seen these beautiful things like the swans are coming back into the gondolas of Venice. You can see
animals in cities now. You see deer going around and
and you can see the Himalaya for the first time clear. You know, there's all these beautiful, beautiful things. The oceans have become clear. The clouds are clear because there's no planes, you know. So this beautiful way of Mother Nature taking back charge, so to speak, you know. I think in my, it's my sort of luck that our company is supporting this very much. So maybe people have felt more inclined to support small local businesses and green fashion and things like that. Okay. Maybe.
Yeah, but I think you're very right. It sounds good. I'm very glad to hear that. So I don't know if you both are ready for it. I would love to talk. If you could maybe give are you up for it to give a demonstration of your fantastic art? And I can say here, I didn't really present you before, but you also have been the world champion of this. I don't know if you still are.
No, it's been a few years.
It's a few years ago, but you were one of them, right? Or you can
Just
get
say-
old. You
just
can get
say
old
yes.
in this sport.
2014. I send you the link to the video.
The
Okay.
proof.
Yeah, but yeah, this is a kendama.
Can you explain a little bit what it is?
Yeah, I'd love to. So basically, what you got right here, it's a ball with a hole in it, and you got a string attached to this handle, and you got these 3 cups and a spike, so you can spike it. And it's a Japanese traditional wooden game where, they pretty much took another game and just added the cups. So it has a pretty long history. The kendama is 100 years old, but the Japanese took the same idea from the French people who had a very similar toy in the 17th century, called bilboquet. And if you look up bilboquet, you can see some Renaissance paintings with these very fine ladies and gentlemen playing bilboquet. And the French people, they invented the bilboquet from a glass of wine. So they basically took the wine glass and then they added a string to the stem and made a little ball so they could catch this ball into the glass and balance it on the cup. And it even goes back to the Inuits of Greenland who played a similar toy 2,500 years ago. So you see all these different varieties and a lot of different cultures out there. But the kendama is kind of where it's at now, with all the different things you can do. And it kind of had its former peak period in the 70s in Japan, where it was very much a school thing like karate, and there's a book with some tricks in it, and then you look up the trick with your sensei, obviously, and do that one trick.
Sensei, that's your guide, your teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I stumbled upon it, I was mainly into skateboarding, and we didn't know Japanese. We didn't know about any books. So we just did what we always do, have a very simple tool, and then you just try and have fun, show off a little bit, compete with your friends who can do it the most times, and then eventually start creating your own tricks. So let me show you. So the basics is you get it on the cup and then juggle it around and spike it.
Wow.
And then once you've gotten into that, you can start flipping it a little bit, even using the ball.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
is it only
Did you get any of that?
Do it with the left hand too, or what?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Much harder. So.
Wow, you can actually do it with the left hand.
Yeah, and you can even use both hands.
Yeah, okay. The string also. Yeah. This is incredible. Thank you for this.
So yeah,
actually, I was thinking, because I was telling somebody about it, and I was thinking it was actually a very good thing that could train your motoric senses. And you can do it indoor in these times. It's a kind of, you get a little exercise. So you move your body and you train both the sides of the brain and stuff like that. I think that's good for creativity too, to keep it up. Yeah,
I mean, I really like it because I was into juggling and skateboarding and these different other similar things. But I think it's a pretty good thing with our modern lifestyle where we look at screens all day. And obviously during lockdown, it's great because you have much more time. You got to stay in, and you can challenge yourself. And there's a huge online community with a lot of challenges and a lot of tutorials. So it's pretty easy to get started. The learning curve is relatively flat, so you can start with the basics and then just keep on going. And I think obviously kids love this kind of stuff, but even for grown-ups and professionals, most of us are just working at a computer and sitting there all day, and then when we need a break, we just take up the phone and then go back to the big screen. And And I think Kendama can really help you just, to take 5 minutes and get somewhere completely else in your brain, and have a little exercise, challenge yourself, and interact with your colleagues if you have the opportunity, have some fun like that. So you can play it by yourself indoor, you can play together outdoor. There's online competitions, and in normal times also a lot of competitions in the real world.
So in the workspace, instead of every time you have 5 minutes you take your phone, you should take this instead. You'll get some exercise.
I highly recommend it.
Get a little open and that. So
yeah, or like my big brother. I mean, he plays a little bit of kendama, but not a lot. But always, when he's waiting for his wife to get ready, he just brings out the kendama instead of getting impatient.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
you could probably sell a lot of them on that thing alone,
yeah. Maybe we should launch a new campaign. Putting on the lipstick. Building suspense.
Thank you for that demonstration. I love to watch it, so it's great. So Emilie, what about you and your clothes? Because I don't know I know it's not a sale thing, but if we talk about creativity, it would be nice to just see 1 or 2 of your products maybe. Is that allowed?
Of course.
I don't think we have any restrictions on that. So it's just because if we talk about creativity, we should see some creation.
Yes, we should, for sure. I work with, I think maybe a lot of Indian people might be watching this, and I work with Indian fabrics. I'm a fabric nerd, so I go to India very often, and when there's no lockdown, I hope it will go away soon. So I find these fabrics in the local markets, and then we have them produced in organic fabric afterwards.
Okay.
So it's basically just very simple. And then we have a lot of...
You designed these patterns?
Actually, the fabrics I find... I find the fabrics, and in markets, I don't see any purpose in sitting and designing fabrics when all the most beautiful fabrics in the world have already been designed.
What you do is, the design is how you cut the shape of the clothes, that's where...
Yeah. And like we have small quilted jackets, for instance,
Oh yeah, wow.
Padded jackets. And like the design is more like... what kind of shape is a dress having, and what fabric for, like small wings on the sleeves, or like what kind of fabric for what style, and then it's also very much in fashion, it is children fashion. It's not it's a little high end in the price, not super expensive, but a little high end. So it's also very much the look and the styling of the campaigns and how to wear it, and making a sort of brand identity around it, which is what I appreciate a lot. I love that process.
Wow, I love all this I hear here. I don't know how much time we have left, but if we just could talk a little bit, because this thing with the design and as I said before, the book from Kamlesh D. Patel, Designing Destiny, which I think is such a great title, because we always talk about design as clothes or the kendama or whatever. I make films, that's also designing, and also had a building company, we design things. But the real design is really our life. How do we design our life, and how do we use creativity? Because the real creativity, the deep one that goes together with the life force, that is actually designing how our life is going to be. And how can we do that? Do you have any ideas or anything you could say about that? Or do you want me to start?
No, I mean, I have several of ideas. It's something which is probably what I'm most occupied with, except designing my clothes and doing the brand. It's like I'm very, very occupied with this being a conscious creator, and what does it mean, and how to manifest, how to become a vibrational match to what you want to manifest. Even with, I was giving an example yesterday on the live stream. I was doing a live stream on being an entrepreneur. Even I do exercises on if I need to, now we're going to do another brand, and we have to manifest investors. We have some investors, potential investors already. And then when you have to go out and negotiate the value of a brand that is not there already, but you need to actually feel this value really a lot yourself to be able to make it up and match a certain amount of money that you need to be able to do what you have to do, you know? So I do a lot of exercises, energetic exercises, actually, you can call it. I mean, I have this idea in life or conviction that everything consists of energy. Everything is energy. Except if we go behind, and when we reach our spiritual goal, hopefully there's no more energy. We can rest a little bit in something we don't know what is. But
we have a little way to go, so we might as well.
We still have it, so we have to deal with this energy still. So to work with this sort of approach to life and to manifestation, also that everything is energy. So it's actually about me being able to manage my energy. Then I can manifest whatever I want, basically. That's the concept of law of attraction that many people are working with, you know, which I have been very occupied with through the last 5 years. You know, I've also changed in my approach to that because I'm beginning to experience more and more myself as a spiritual seeker, that the more that I am actually not involved and the more I am detached, which is this yogic concept of detachment, the more I'm actually detached to the outcome, the more I actually manifest it easier and faster. So I can get to these sort of instant manifestations. Sometimes I have experiences of instant manifestations, like something magical just happens and it's just not possible. And it just was a subtle suggestion from my subconsciousness or from somewhere that I almost didn't even know that I had. So I'm starting to really become more and more conscious of this way of not being so involved, that I can work with. Of course, I want some, if I have a budget and I want X amount of money to manifest next year, I have to, of course, have focus on it and not move my focus away. But at the same time, I have to be somehow withdrawn and detached. I think those paradoxes are very interesting to work with.
That's brilliant. Yeah. What about you, Thorkild? Do you have it the same way or what?
I think, I mean, from a kid, I always experienced, you know, even when I was a kid, you know, there's always, you know, some stuff you want or some things you want to happen. And I think, you know, even when I think back, it's like when I forgot all about these things, they would come usually. And I think that's the detachment Emilie talks about, kind of like letting go. And I think a lot about the stuff that I want, you know, I want to have, I want to do, I want other people to do. But I think you can't force anything, and you also need to let things happen, and being detached is definitely the way it has to be, because then it can kind of like grow naturally and be what it's supposed to be. And I like to trust that these things, you know, happen for a reason, and, you know, whether the outcome something, you know, you like or dislike, you know, you need to learn from it, and see it as a possibility to grow as a person. So yeah, I guess we're pretty much on the same page. And I think during our meditation, it's easier to kind of like align yourself with your inner self, and slowly becoming one as a person, instead of having a conscious and a subconscious just trying to battle each other. But you get calm and you get steady within. Once you're aligned, you know, it's kind of like a more clear, you know, easy path to take.
Meditation helps to go deeper with these kind of things. You could say that. That the meditation itself also gives this opportunity to go deeper into these condition of the mind.
Definitely. I think the meditation allows one to be calm, and also just
make a balance. We talk about having a balance, so you're not affected too much about the ups and downs. You have, like, you stay in the middle. That's kind of, isn't it?
So, you know, in business, there's all these measurement tools, and a lot of people use them or are being used under them. And I think meditation helps you keep calm no matter the outcome. You know, did we perform? Did we underperform? Did we overperform? You know.
nice.
We should, you know, we should just try and stay calm and take a learning from whatever the outcome.
Very good.
I have this quote very big written on my office wall here. It says, when thought, feeling, and emotion become one, we literally can change matter.
Okay,
and
yes, that's great. That's a beautiful.
And I put it above my desk and I look at it every day because I always sort of then make these checks on myself.
That's good.
To if my thought and my feeling and emotion are aligned on some certain matter. If I have to send a very important email, I will just look at that and close my eyes and do a little meditation to feel if I'm aligned emotionally with what I want to say.
You could say that you have the heart in it, so it's not all brain and calculation.
Yeah. So the mind and the heart is coherent, you know, working in a coherent way. So we don't send out one energy from the mind and then the heart is not there and we're not integrated. So it's all about integration of these things, you know, thought and emotion and feeling. I think then we can actually be pretty much manifest what we want. And then again, I don't know if we can. It's always a little.
We can try. We can at least try it out.
At least we
make
can
an experiment. That's also in creation. We make experiments. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it works. But I think the resilience to keep on going is very important. That's another subject, I know. But
I think the very important thing also is what is the purpose of creation, right? Because we keep talking about what you create. I create fashion, or Thorkild create this, and we want to make money because we have a business and we want to sell. But actually, the real creation or the real deal with this for the soul is, what is it I want to experience? What version of myself do I want to experience? That's the real creation.
Very good point. Yeah.
And I think, you know, Neil Walsh, who wrote Conversation with God, which is one of my favorite books that I've read numerous of times. He's saying that we came here to truly experience, to experience who we truly are. What version do I want to be? Do I want to be now expressing this version or expressing that version? So the real creation is actually that. Yeah. How do I respond to whatever? Because it doesn't matter what manifests in the material in a way. I think that's the once the focus become more and more there, then the outer circumstances become more and more irrelevant for me. I can feel it becomes kind of irrelevant. Okay. As long as I stay aligned with what I want to experience, and I have decided my sole purpose is to experience my high expression of my higher being, where I am calm, I'm having a loving approach to everybody I meet, I'm not reacting on aggressive or with anger. That could be my tendency with if I react from fear, you know. So these kind of decisions, what is it I want to truly experience in life? What is my soul's purpose? I think that's the real creativity, to become.
And nice to hear. It's very deep. That's very beautiful.
And Designing Destiny also, when Daji's the Daji's book is also basically about that. You know, it doesn't matter if we are a worker in the street of India doing shoes. It's how we do it, or if we are running a multi-billion-dollar industry in Manhattan. You know, it's how we do it. Do we experience? Do we co-create with the universe or God or whatever you want to call it? In the way that truly supports the purpose of our existence, you know. So we become.
This is the whole gist of our show here, is this thing with the life force and creativity. Because if I can say that, it's you know, when you have an idea. I work in films too, and there people always say, oh, they always see the film are fantastic made. There's a lot of explosions or whatever it is, you know, and it's a lot of money to make and a lot of physical, practical things that have to be done to make a film. And but most people forget that it actually just starts with one little idea. Somebody is sitting oh, it could be fun to see a car explode. That's just a thought. It's only a thought. It's not even a word yet, because he hasn't written it. He just thought, and then he starts writing. And universe is like that too. That's why I see life force and creativity goes together, because I would say a film script or a book or anything, any idea, even just that I would like to have a picture hanging there, for example. That's an idea you have first. Then you have to go and find a picture. Then you have to get a ladder, put a nail in, or get somebody to do it. There's a lot of practical things. But if the idea didn't come, you would never have the picture hanging. You know?
No, and then it's a very interesting point, because then where is it where we really thrive? That's where we get the idea, because you know, that's where the true creation takes place.
Once you have, we actually decide what is going to be, and that's the same with our lives in a way. I think that's what designing destiny is about, and the meditation and spirituality is that we actually make a decision of we create our own lives instead of being what shall we say? We let other things decide what's going to happen to us. We decide from inside. And hopefully make the right decision. That's why I believe that meditation, as you said, both of you, makes you calm and makes you balance things out, and makes it easier for you to make the right decisions. And when you have this problem, you don't know, should I go this way or should I go that way? Then you can sit down, close your eyes for a moment, and then sometimes you have the, I would say most often you have the right answer. Even when I write emails or other things, you know, I often just, when I write it, I do it very, I can also be very, if somebody, you know, there can be something controversial you have to take care of. Then you write it back, you know, like this. And then I just take a moment, then I sit and meditate. Then I rewrite it. Often it's a completely different mail after a few moments, you know, if you just think about it. I think this is a really important part of this with creating and designing. Design is create. Actually, true design, real design, you know that too, because your grandfather was a great furniture designer. Design is a mixture of functionality. Yes. Very pragmatic functionality. The legs on the chair have to be able to stand a person sitting in it, and it can't tumble over, but it also has to be beautiful. So all design is actually a mixture of different kinds of faculties of the person. I mean, it's beauty, emotions, it's also sturdiness and pragmatism, if you could say that. So this is,
but the interesting part is this of not being that involved with the outcome, because like when you take an example of my grandfather, whenever he finished the project, it could be months that he would draw on a chair, you know, once it was finished, he wasn't that interested in it, you know, and it's always like that, you know, from making a movie, once it's done, you know. Exactly. So, but
sometimes the process is more interesting than actually the outcome, but that's also a nice thing.
Yes, but I think also I had an experience once with something that I've been co-creating in, you can say, in quantum space for a long time. You know, I do these vision boards, I draw it a lot, I make things very alive in another space, in other dimensions when I really want something to manifest, you know, and I test my ideas a lot. For me, an idea is not mine. This brand doesn't belong to me. It's hanging, an idea is something that's hanging out there. You know, many people, especially artists and designers, and they're like, oh, someone stole my idea, you know. I always kind of laugh a little bit at it, because it's like, no, it's not your idea. The idea is hanging out in the quantum space. Some people are open to it and take it down. The ones that actually moves on it and take action and create it, they have some other gifts sometimes, you know. But the idea is something that is alive on its own. It comes from somewhere else. So I think
I think it's a beautiful thing also, that humbleness you have to have with it, because it's actually creation that you are being allowed to get partake of. You're just being given some tools that you can use to create even more, but you're getting it from somewhere. It's not, I've seen many artists, not so many, but there are artists who think they are themselves doing everything, right? But I really believe that a really true artist is really just channeling what is there already.
Yes, and I think that's why a lot of artists are not succeeding very well financially or commercially, because it's such a big gift to receive this. When I receive the inspiration, when I find a fabric, when I sit in a market in India somewhere and I find the right fabric for my drawings, this sense of like that I'm being given something, so it just fulfills me so much. It's so much aligned with my life's purpose to work with these fabrics, that it's such a great fulfillment that afterwards I'm like, why would I take money for it? I already got it, you know? So then I have been a little more clever than some other artists, you know, that I've said, I don't know this, I need commercial people to handle that part. because I know that I'm at my best when I stay in that zone and that sphere where I keep receiving and I keep playing and I keep having this. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'd probably have to stop because I think we have been going on much longer than I thought we would.
Because it's so nice.
It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you. I think it's so beautiful that you have these ways of seeing things. And for me, I'm, you know, in the end of, I'm 68 now, and I'm so happy to see there's a kind of hope for the future with young people like you. So I'm really happy for this. And I would just have to say, I didn't say before, both of you are also meditation trainers, you're preceptors, and you start people up with meditation, and that I think that's also beautiful that you do that. So I think the time is over. I don't have any indication, but I think we have talked for more than an hour, right? Is that correct? Can you see any?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we should just round it up, and thank you so much for being. It's been a great experience. I feel very.
Thank you so much, Robert.
I'm full of ideas and creativity. I'm going to write something now when we close it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Robert.
Have a good time there, and take care of yourself, right?
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.